Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we're having a look once again at Operation Frost, and this video is going to be focused around the vehicles, their capabilities, and basically what we're looking forward to when it comes to the main prizes of this event. Hopefully what we see coming forward in the next week is some of the pinups, the decals and stuff like that, which is kind of the bonus editions, I suppose, when it comes to the prizes available for this event. But right now, these are the only ones that we have available, so we'll have a look. I would also like to point you towards the attention of the Twitter, and as you can see, the War Thunder Twitter has their collective thing that you get every so often. So pretty much what you have to do, as you can see here, is you need to retweet, you need to like, and then also leave a comment, and these will go forward and be put towards creating these for the community. This basically means if we reach 15,000, I suppose you call them mentions, or, activity over the period of the next week or so, we get access to a 70% booster, the universal backups, and also a decal of a steel rat, which is really cool. Also, remember to activate the code as well. So what you do is you go to your account on War Thunder, go to the store, click activate code, and put in all capital letters Frost, and you can be part of this too. This isn't just a Twitter thing, it's also a VK, Instagram, and Facebook thing. So if you prefer those platforms, or you want to, sort it out on other platforms to try and help out the noise, then of course you can do that too. Let's try and hit the goal. I am interested personally in that decal. So let's start having a look at these vehicles. 2 points of, 2 points of order, I suppose, before we get into it. Two of these vehicles have changed since last time, which is yesterday. So pretty much it's kind of interesting how over just a short period of time, two things have had to be clarified, which is why, as I said before, it seems kind of odd that we've had the announcement of this so early, because of the fact that, there's still a week technically to go, or 6 days now, was a week yesterday. So first of all, the armament of the TISMA, or the TISMA, has been dropped. So it's now 2 37s plus 2 20mm, or 2 45s plus 2 20s. Before, that actually said 4 45s, which would have been incredibly fun, but obviously you can't have everything that you want, and also 4 45 seems a little bit crazy, doesn't it? Even on an interceptor heavy fighter. The other one which has also been clarified is the J6K1, which you can see down here, and what it has access to now is 6 20mm and 2 13.2mm instead of, what it had before, which was, of course, the 30mm combined with the 20s. So we're going to go through each of these vehicles, talk about them, have a look at them in the asset viewer, and also remember, I did get some hands-on experience with some of these on the dev server, not all of them, but a lot of them are very similar to stuff that we've seen before. The main thing I do want to emphasize is, in this video, I'm going to be focused on the vehicle themselves, not really too much their usefulness, but their place in the game as event vehicles. I'm really interested in event vehicles when it comes to War Thunder. I think it's a really nice thing to do in War Thunder, where we have these community events where, we can come together, work together, and get these vehicles on an individual basis. So let's start off with the TISMA, and this is a Soviet Rank 2 Premium. You can see it right here in the asset viewer. It was available on the dev server, but only in the dynamic campaign. I didn't personally look for it, but I know it was there just because of the fact that it was dilly-dallying about. And you can see it doesn't just have access to this quite impressive forward weaponry. It also has access to some other things. Namely, if you look at these pylons right here, these to me would indicate some form of rockets which would be available for the machine. Then of course it has a backwards turret, or a defensive turret as well, which looks like a Shikass machine gun. Might be a little bit larger than that, but the gun itself looks quite small. On top of this as well, it seems to have some form of radar. This is not a gun. This is, or at least seems to be, a part of this radar which is sat down here. I believe it's a radar, not a light, because of course this was supposed to be an interceptor version. And with the heavy armament that is on this, it kind of reminds me of stuff like the ME410B6R3, where they've just front-loaded it with a bunch of ammunition and a bunch of guns to try and take down stuff like bombers. And yeah, I think this seems, at least to me, to be the Soviet variant of that. It also has no bottom, which is kind of interesting. I have no idea why that is. I don't know why you would have a glass bottom here for an interceptor aircraft, unless that this is also going to have access to bombs in some form of bomb bay here. You can see that it does have placements to hold bombs, so that would make sense to do so. But once again, this is supposed to be an interceptor, so why would it have to, or why would it have the ability to carry bombs? And this is where the interesting thing comes in, right? So we've had other vehicles like this be added to the game for the Soviets. You know, the Yak-4, the Yak-2, then you've got the I-29, and all of these machines have been incredibly powerful when they first came out, and then, you know, they slowly kind of knock off because people start playing other things, but the I-29 never really fell off, and that's because of the fact that it has really powerful engines and really powerful guns. I think the Tizma is pretty much exactly the same. It has these crazy large guns and access to really powerful engines on top of it, and also this extra durability, extra variety, with the fact it has bombs and rockets attached too. So I don't think this will just be useful in the air side of things, you know, in air-to-air combat. Obviously, a twin-engine fighter is never going to be able to compete with single-engine fighters, at least in the majority of the time. So I don't expect this to do really well one-on-one with something like a Bf-109. But I think it can fulfill its job as a, you know, bomber hunter, especially with a lot of the German and American bombers which are running around right now. I really do like the general theme of this machine. I do like the fact that it has access to different, you know, ideas, such as the radars we talked about, and also just these massive, powerful engines, and these really interesting exhausts on them as well. So for me, this is a cool event vehicle. Yes, we have had quite a few twin and single-engine Soviet event vehicles in the past, but for me, as a starter, you know, plane, which is pretty much what this is for the Operation Frost, I think it's good. I like it. I really do. And I want to see if the 45s are going to act like the Yak-9K's 45s, so only have stuff like HE, or if they're going to have a ground-pounding option, because then, you know, we can start talking about taking this thing into stuff like ground realistic and having fun with it there. The next vehicle that is on offer is, of course, the Ram, and the Ram is going to be a vehicle which is generally going to be kind of useful, kind of like the VFW, but for odd reasons, and we'll go through them right here. I just want to make sure to try and find this damn thing, because it's not always the easiest. You know, we have the Ram 2, which is this wonderful, wonderful conglomeration of stuff, but also this vehicle. So, you know, we've had this in-game for a very long time in the American tech tree, even though it is Canadian and should technically be in the British tech tree. But the most recent one that has been added is the Ram 90. And this is a Ram which has access to... Why can I not find it? Where have you gone? Oh, why have you forsaken me right now? Ah, yes, I need to type in UK first. So, the one which is being added to the game is a UK vehicle in the form of the Ram 90mm. I have no idea why I can't find it. Enjoy a rocket. There you go. How about now? It should be in here, right? Oh, here we go. And here is the Ram SP AAA. So this is being added in update 1.95 as the Operation Frost vehicle. So this won't be available in the standard tech tree. This will be available as a gift. And what it has access to is a lightened Ram 2 chassis, something that is a premium for the Americans, and with this lightened chassis, it also has access to the 3.7 QF, or the QF 3.7, the quick-firing 3.7-inch. This is a AA gun from the British, but it does get access to AP rounds as well as HE. So this isn't just going to be a weird donk gun. Instead, it's actually going to be a proper tank destroyer in the game. Very similar to another event vehicle, which I really dislike. I actually haven't used it since it was released, the VFW, because of the fact that I think it's a completely ridiculous vehicle because of how the hull brake mechanics work in the game. And I've got a feeling the Ram 2 might have the same issue, where it's going to be really, really hard to kill this vehicle because of the fact of the hull brake mechanics being a little bit wacky right now. So if we have a look at the X-ray of this Ram SP AAA, what we find is something very simple. You know, this is it. This is all that exists for the Ram SP AAA. There isn't any people modeled on it yet, but if you want to go onto the channel and you can have a look at the Ram SP AAA in action, you know, we're able to create a user mission for it on the dev server, so you can have a look. The first thing to understand is it has a crew of 7. This is not a small crew, it's a large one. You know, it has 5 crew members. 2 are actually sat on the back over here, 1 is on the gun, and then 2 are in front on either side. And then you have 2 people who are in here, actually in the driver position, and I'm guessing what is a radio position as well. So this vehicle is not one of those where you're just going to be able to kill one individual and the whole thing is just going to fall apart. No, no, no. This is going to be a vehicle which is going to be incredibly hard to kill unless, you know, you are machine gunning it from the back, or the hull brake mechanic actually works on it. One thing that you can see from this is that it has the transmission in the front and also, of course, the engine in the back, so it should be quite easy to hit that engine if you're trying to aim for it. And, you know, you can just basically shoot through this area of the vehicle and it should theoretically hull brake it. Just like if you shoot this bit, it should theoretically hull brake it, but with my experience with a lot of vehicles, such as the VFW, that doesn't happen. So it might just have some innate survivability from the fact that it has a ton of crew, from the fact that this gun shield does cover the majority of the crew, and also because of the wackiness of the hull brake mechanic. What is fun about this machine, though, is somebody in their right mind, when they decided to make a prototype, which this was, you know, this was a way to work out could they use the Ram 2 for more than it was designed for, which was, of course, as a medium tank, you know, as I've shown here. This is what the Ram 2 was designed to be, and then, you know, they started going a little bit wackadoo with the chassis. They created some kangaroo versions, which are troop carriers, some ARVs, of course, some armor recovery vehicles, and they also went for this wonderful thing as well. But the other little areas where they have cut out, in my opinion, a little bit too much, is there is just a hole here. And this is where the driver sits. So the you can just machine gun the driver because there's just a big metal hole where his head is. Now, that's not very good, is it? It basically means that no matter what position you are in looking at this machine from the front, you can kill the driver just by machine gunning him right there. On top of this as well, from the above, if you are shooting down into this machine, like from an aircraft, which of course is going to absolutely annihilate this thing, there are holes above as well for the 2 crew members in the hull. So there is one for the driver here, and one for the, I believe, the radio man here, and obviously the rest of the crew is exposed. So yeah, it's survivability-wise from above is hilariously bad in this thing. So if you're going to take this, you're going to have to take it out when there's no aircraft, and you're also, you know, going to have to take it out in the first 5 to 10 minutes of a battle before aircraft start spawning in. But the general factors of a tank destroyer is what you want is a powerful gun which is going to be able to kill a lot of things. The 3.7-inch at the BR that it's coming in will be able to. It will be able to do a lot of damage. It will be able to pretty much destroy whatever it feels like it, just like stuff like the VFW can, and also the 88mm from the Germans. You know, the truck, or the the truck which the Germans have at rank 2 or rank 3. This will be no different, the RAM SP AAA. It will be completely fine in the killing department. The only question is, how will it be in the survivability department? And yes, if you destroy this whole top bit here, you still have 2 crew members down the bottom, so you can technically survive. So therefore, that's great, as long as you don't get hull broken. But it is definitely just a smaller version of the VFW, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of annoyed people when it gets into the game, and it isn't as easy to kill as people would think. So yeah, I'm happy to see it. It is a vehicle that was talked out for a very, very long time, and for me, personally, it's just a nice addition to the British tree, which has got a lot over this last, period of time, and it is just nice to get a little bit more in the form of a gift vehicle. Now, unfortunately, this TIS doesn't have a skeleton attached to it. It might do. Oh, it does have a cockpit, though. Sorry, I was just checking some other stuff. Let's see the cockpit. Oh, so the cockpit is fully HD? That's lovely, actually. That's really nice. I'm just kind of surprised it has this area down here. Even the turret at the back here is really well modeled. Hopefully at some point we do get first-person gunners. Wouldn't that be awesome? And maybe we can have a look at the skeleton just to see what radars does it have. Has flares? It's kind of interesting. Has, of course, the props. Maybe it doesn't have radar. Has some blisters. Yeah, maybe those things are flares. Interesting. I know it's talking about the guns. It's not showing up the other stuff. So yeah, this thing is fully ready. I can't wait until it is ready to go. Lovely radar building. But the fact is, it is a vehicle coming. So the first 2 vehicles are great, that we've looked at. Really happy with both of them. I think they both fit the game well. They're not going to take over the game. They have their inherent problems, when it comes to maneuverability and survivability for them both. They both do great in the firepower department, but overall, that's what you want out of event vehicles. You want something that is fun and interesting, but also at the same time is not going to take over the game. And I don't think either of them are going to. They're going to be, combat effective, but they're not going to take over the game. So for me, they are good choices going forward. The next vehicle to have a look at is the P811, or sorry, the PT811. This is a first rank 2 premium that the US are getting for Operation Frost, and it is the first ship that is available to get in Operation Frost. So if you decide to do the naval stuff, this is what you will unlock before getting to, of course, the German premium destroyer. And what you see here is a very, very similar story to another machine we already have in the game. Oh, by the way, I'll just make it move. So let's get that little thing moving on the top there. So this is the PT811, and what we already have in game is the PT810. So this to this. You can see that there are slightly different design choices. One is slightly longer than the other, the 811, which you see here, and the 810 is slightly shorter. But if we just look at general usability, they are exactly the same. Meaning that the 811, it has 2 bofors, one on the front, one on the back, so 40mm. It has 2 sets of dual 20mm, Oerlikons, of course, one here and one here. And then it has access to the 81-inch mortar right here as well. If you have a look at the 810, it has access to, of course, the 40mm on the front, 40mm on the back. It has access to two dual 20mm that you can see here, and it also has access to the mortar right here. So the only real difference is that this gun is in a slightly different place, and so is the 81-inch mortar. They also both have 4 torpedoes, so you can see where the torpedoes are supposed to be held on this thing. Same with the PT, right here, ow, and then right over there. So, you don't have to really worry about it too much. The fact that it has torpedoes, the fact that it's going to have speed, the fact that it's going to have a lot of other stuff is really, really nice. If we look on the inside as well, has a stack of 4 engines, which I'm pretty sure is the same as this. They're just in a different configuration. So this is the 810, and then once again, this is the 811. So you can see that they are slightly different internally. There's a little bit of difference going on, but functionally, both of these machines are going to be incredibly similar. And as somebody who has really enjoyed a lot of the American boats, when it comes to their PT boats, I think they offer some really fun gameplay. You've got a lot of small caliber guns, especially the 40 millimeters are really, really powerful. Good range on them, do good damage against other boats and PT boats. Then you have the fact that you have the 4 torpedoes on board. I think all of these really come together to create a fun experience for a lot of people in naval. The American PT boats, along with the dark class PT boats for the British, have been some of the funnest, PT boats that I've actually played in the game, or the funnest lower tier stuff, because they give you a little bit of everything. The only thing they don't really give you is any armor. So, your survivability is based on using your torpedoes effectively, and also using your speed effectively. And yeah, as long as you do that, you'll be completely fine. So this will definitely add to my 3-3, 3-7 American lineup, and I'll be happy to take it. So the first 3 vehicles that are on offer here, the Tismar, the QF 3.7, and also this, the 94-foot PT 811, I would say are all great vehicles for the event. They all offer something which is similar to the normal tech tree, but also with their little bit of pizzazz. They all have, they're all going to be fun to play in their own little ways. They all have downsides, they all have strengths. They're not going to take over the game, and they're also all going to fit in lineups which already exist. So, they'll be fun for everybody. There is a few problems though once we get into the next tier. So the first vehicle from the next tier has already caused some controversy, the J6K1. Now, I have done a video on this on the dev server if you want to have a look at it. I've personally really enjoyed flying this thing. That is God damn it. That is not the J6K1. There we go. This is the J6K1. So the J6K1 is a Japanese fighter, which is coming into the game for Operation Frost. It is a rank 4 premium. So this vehicle is the same as the last 3 that we looked at, which are all premium as well, and it has just an insane amount of armament on it. It has 6 20mm in the wings, and then it has 2 13.2s right here, either side. And what this means is whenever you run into anything, whether it be friend or foe, once you click that trigger, that friend or foe is going to disappear incredibly quickly. And for me, that is good. You want something with a lot of firepower. The problem that I see with this is the fact that it has a 2200 horsepower engine. It's seen as one of these Japanese late war super interceptors, and it has a ton of speed behind it as well. So I've seen a lot of people comparing it to the Ki 94-2. I don't personally see the comparison yet, because I think it actually maneuvers a lot better than the Ki 94-2, and also has better acceleration coming out of turns than the Ki 94-2, just because of my limited play with it on the dev server. For me, when I look at this vehicle, what I think is it's very similar to a lot of the other high tier rank 4 Japanese vehicles. You look at the N1K, for example, something which only really struggles in very small departments, whereas other vehicles at rank 4 for other nations do have some downsides. The Japanese aviation area from about rank 1 to even the highest rank is very strong. If you haven't ground through the zeros and haven't played stuff like the A7M1, the A6M5, the N1K2, I would highly recommend it. And that's not even talking about some of the most ridiculous planes like the J2 F.R.O.S.T, which is just an amazing aircraft. And this is going to add to it. It's going to add a nice little flavor to it. It's going to add some fun and interest to the general tree, and also give some people a good premium to use at rank 4, which isn't the A6M5 Co in order to grind out their Japanese tech trees. Because the A6M5 Co is insanely good at, because it has great gains on the Silver Lions and also on the premium in the form of rewards for research, then so therefore, you know, it'll give people another option. I don't think it'll be a brick. I know a lot of people think it will. I really don't think that doesn't represent my testing with it on the dev server. And also the controversy around it is, well, the J6K's history is pretty much as simple as this. So the J6K was supposed to be developed from the J3K. Now, the J3K and the J6K respectively were cancelled. At least the J6K was. The reason for this is because the Japanese, what would you call them? I suppose the Japanese High Command at the time realized that they wanted to divert efforts into different projects. So the J6K that we have in-game, that you see before you, never existed. The closest that this vehicle got to existing was partially being built in a factory. It actually reached the mock-up phase, meaning that it wasn't even fully built. It was just a mock-up of what it was supposed to be. And eventually it got cancelled in 1944. So this is a paper plane. It's as simple as that. And my stance on paper planes, and always will be, is that I don't want them in War Thunder. The reason for this is because I'm not interested in made-up statistics. I'm not interested in also manufacturers' ideas of how their machine is supposed to fly, because unfortunately a lot of them, especially during the Second World War, lied a lot when it came to what their machines could do. There are plenty of examples of this, such as the Soviet designers when it came to specific, very fast propeller aircraft, but pretty much lied about the speeds. There was actually a famous case of a prototype which was supposed to go 700 kilometers an hour, and eventually when they tested it, it only went 500. There was also many cases of, designers and manufacturers talking about the reliability of their machines only to blow up, after a few test flights. So you've got to take a lot of what people like manufacturers and stuff say with a pinch of salt, especially in the Second World War, because they are not just creating the product, they're also trying to sell it to people who want it. So the J6K Jinpu is no different. This is a plane, as I said, it was never fully built, it was never tested, none of this stuff, and especially in this configuration. The general configuration that you will see talked about is this idea of a 230mm, 213.2mm armament. There was also other there is also other sources talking about a 620mm armament with some 13.2s as well. So yeah, it is technically a fictional plane, and very sad to see it, come to War Thunder, especially after the last few, months of the German stuff with the Panther II and the Tiger 105. We really shouldn't be in a rules for thee and not for me situation. Everything should have to live by the same rules, no matter how everything works. Now, I do understand that a lot of people are happy to see this. I do understand that there are many people out there who don't care about that stuff, and that's okay. But my opinion is my opinion, and you can also freely express yours. The next vehicle, so therefore this, in my opinion, is a bad event vehicle, just because of those facts. There's also other ones they could pick, the A6M8 or the M7, if they really wanted to. Both of them could easily come in. If they wanted to add stuff as event vehicles, I think people would be fine with them. The next vehicle to have a look at is the Merkava. Now, the Merkava, this is the Mark 1, okay? So the Mark 1 was added in the Battlefield Engineer event earlier this year, and it's a very good vehicle. It's 8.7 in the American tech tree, very, very fun to use. This is the Mark 2B Late. you can see there's not too much difference, is there? So once again, Mark 1, Mark 2B. So you can see there's a little bit of extra armor on the turret. There's a little bit, I suppose maybe it's a little bit smoother on the front, probably not. It also has access to some other smoke launchers. And also, if we take a side profile, so this is the Mark 1, this is the Mark 2B, you can see it's slightly bulkier on the sides as well. So they've added a little bit of armor, they've upgraded the engine a little bit, they've kept the gun the same. Now it's still the 105, so it still should fire the same ammunition. It should have a slightly better horsepower to ton ratio, but nothing crazy, and also it has extra survivability in the form of these smoke grenades here. The big upgrade though from the Mark 2B from the Mark 1 though is that it has thermals. So what that means is, since it has thermals, you have a situation where this has to be a higher BR than its other, contemporary, the Mark 1. If it doesn't get a higher BR than this, then it will just be an overall better vehicle. And at least right now, it is sat at 9.0. And another thing as well is this vehicle is labeled as an event vehicle, not a premium vehicle. So the Merkava Mk.2B, you will not get the premium bonuses for it in the tech tree. Instead, it will just be there as kind of a collector's item. So you can either coupon it off if you wanted the premium bonuses, or, you could keep it and use it in the solid, high eras of the American tanks. So yeah, it's going to be incredibly similar to what we see from the Mark 1B. This is the Mark 1 X-ray, and this is the Mark 2B X-ray. You can see how similar these vehicles are from the internal point of view, and it's just kind of funny, right? So that's the Mark 1B, that's the Mark 2. Yeah, it's a slight engine movement and a slight breech change. That's all you're really getting from an internal point of view. So for me, I'm happy to see another Merkava. I think seeing more Israeli vehicles be represented in War Thunder is great. I also think the Merkava is generally a good choice to represent the Israeli vehicles, because there isn't much controversy when it comes to what tree it should be put in. It obviously should be put in the American tree because of the historic knowledge that was used to create this from the hands of the Americans to the Israelis. On top of this as well, the Merkava is a very well-known vehicle for the Israelis, and we're also, at least in the files, there is a Israeli Apache just kind of sat there as well. So there's a lot of stuff that Israel is getting. Also the the Votor with the Shafirs, so you have that as well. It's nice to see, the place get represented as well as it is. The other thing is, though, since we've already had a Merkava Mark 1 as an event vehicle this year, why are we getting a second? Why can we not see something like this for another tech tree? If we are going to do the high-tier premium idea, high-tier event vehicle idea, should it not be a share-the-load scenario instead of just pumping it all into America? So far this year, we've had the Orbal 74, we've had the Merkava, which you can see we're getting another Merkava as well. And then for the Operation Shipyard event, I honestly can't even remember. Oh, the VT-12, right? So you have the VT-12 for Operation Shipyard. So that's your top tier vehicle for, the Germans. You have one for the Italians, and then you have two for the Americans. What about other nations? Why have we not seen a top-tier Soviet vehicle? There's plenty of objects out there which are really interesting. We of course had the IS-7 event. How about Japan? What about some form of STB or STA, which they could get as an event vehicle? You could also throw in a French vehicle if you really felt like it. You could throw in, if you wanted something of equivalent to this, how about the AMX-30 with a stabilizer? Not the AMX-30 Super, but the other AMX-30, the one which had a modernization package added to it, which gave it a stabilizer and also a few other nice little features. Why can we not do that? Why does it have to be another Merkava? And I understand if you want to say, obviously they got a lot of praise for adding the first Merkava, and then that should be more of a question of, well, if we see a lot of people interested in this, therefore we should have a look at its Israeli tech tree, or we should look at making a minor nation as Israel, which feeds off other nations. That should be the conversation, instead of let's put in more Israeli event vehicles. I don't really have a problem with this being an event vehicle, apart from the fact of its timing. The fact that it is coming out in the same year as the Merkava Mk.2B instead of another nation getting another high-tier premium, which I think would be well loved compared to this. You could even throw in something like the Chieftain 900 if you wanted to, for the British. There are plenty of other options if you wanted to go for this 8790 event vehicle, instead of front-loading it with the US. The US is also a top tier, doing incredibly well right now. If you haven't seen the statistics, it's insanely scary, and it's why a lot of people are flocking to America, and why the XM1 is also finally going up in BR. So I'm happy to see this vehicle in game. I don't think it should be an event vehicle. I think they should have picked something else for a different nation. At the same time, though, if they wanted to go American and they wanted to make an event premium, it's a good pick. The last vehicle is the Type 1924 Jaguar. Now, this is, of course, a German destroyer, which is incredibly similar, once again, to one that we already have in the game. So one of the things about the ships in general is you don't have a lot of leeway when it comes to, well, I shouldn't say leeway. You don't have a ton of options when it comes to design philosophy for ships. That stuff was pretty much nailed down in the 20s and maybe in the 30s. When you're talking about World War II vehicles. And as long as you don't want to put in stuff like the Tiger again, the top-tier Tiger, the HMS, if you are limiting yourself to destroyers, you are limiting yourself in design capability. So this, there we go, this is the machine that we already have in-game, right? This is the 1924 Leopard, I suppose it's called, or it's the Type 1924 Jaguar, which is currently in game. You can find it in a tech tree, in the German tech tree, right? This is what it looks like. Would you like to see what the gift vehicle looks like? So this is the 1932 version. This is the 1941 version. They've added a bit of AA. And change the color a bit. That's pretty much the difference between the two machines, and this makes sense, because as the war went on, a lot of these ships did add a bit more AA to them. So you can see here with this front gun, this is the 1932. So this has slightly changed. The model actually looks a hell of a lot older for this one. And the 1941, it has an extra gun platform on it in the form of this. And also, it has some gun platforms in the center, and it has one on the back as well. And if you have a look, once again, at the 32 version, you only have the turrets, none of the extra 20mm gun platforms. Hello, Bernard. And you still have some of them in the middle, you just have less of them. So it seems like the difference between the gift premium, it is a premium as well, it's a premium destroyer, rank 3 for the Germans, and the one which is already in the game is a few extra AA guns, namely 2 of them. One here, and also one at the back here. Everything else is the same. Maybe it has slightly different main guns, but they're the same caliber. It has the same torpedoes. So once again, 41 version, 32 version. You can see they don't change at all. And yeah, so it's incredibly similar. And the problem is, it's the same problem that we've had since ships have existed. Why is the premium version a better version than the one in the tech tree? Why is that? This should not be happening. This should not be something that we're okay with. This is not something that we should support. I understand that people would like to pay for power. I understand that they want their wallets to matter in War Thunder. But what I would ask for you to do is to think about the other side of the player base that has to deal with actually playing the game just from a standard level. The majority of people in War Thunder are not whales. The majority of people in War Thunder are just people who log in, who want to research, who want to play some old ships or some old vehicles and just enjoy themselves, and have fun in the game. And if they keep coming up against these premium machines, which are going to cost a decent amount on the market, especially after a specific amount of time, and also stuff, not just this, but, the general trend that we've seen in War Thunder Naval, which is, of course, if you buy the premium version, it is just better, whether it's in secondary armament, primary armament, or tertiary armament. It just means that the gameplay experience is just worse for the people who don't want to buy the stuff. And it's the same for this. Even though this is available for everybody, it's available for everybody in the form that everybody can do the event. At the same time, it's still going to be limited, isn't it? Because of the fact that what you have is it is a timed event. So if anybody joins the game after the event is over, they can only buy it on the Gaijin market. What if they're on Xbox? What if they're on PlayStation and they don't have access to that? Then what do you do? Or what if they can't get access to the Gaijin market for a different reason? Or what if their country eventually outlaws stuff like this secondary market system? What happens in that scenario? Those people just get screwed. They can't do anything and they get a worse machine. And this is something we see with the Eugen. This is something that we see with the Helena. This is something that we see with all of the premium destroyers. Even the Leningrad, which was the last one for the event earlier in the year for the PBM and also the Leningrad. So for me, even though I like this as an event vehicle, because it's better than the standard tech tree version, it's a no. Once again, it's not a good one. You've got to flip these things around. You've got to start putting the premium gift ones to be either the same or worse than the ones in the tech tree. Otherwise, it is paying for power. And this is something we've seen from ships since its inception. And it's not okay. It really isn't. So just generally looking at, these vehicles. I really like the first three. I think they're cool, they're interesting, they're going to give cool playstyles and be really fun. The second three, I think they're also going to give they're going to be really fun to play, they're going to give great playstyles, they're going to give great variety, and also, they're going to give some tech trees, such as the Japanese one, another really cool rank 4 premium, and I'm happy about that. And also the Destroyer will hopefully get more people into Naval, which is also great. But you can see my inherent issues that I have with all three of these. The Merkava is probably the best out of the three. I just think it's the wrong timing. The J6, it would have been better just to pick an A6 M8. And then the Type 1924, you need to swap it with the other one. Otherwise, you will come up to criticism for the decision that has been made. So yeah, those are the event vehicles that are coming in Operation F.R.O.S.T. I hope you join me on the battlefield to grind them out, since I will be grinding them out with you. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Ambrosius McClellan, B. Young, Blackie, Daniel Stanton, Jay Wilt, John Ryman, Joseph Anders, Martinez, Moxie, Super Cacti, Uyins Terry, E-Love Goat, and Seductive Trash Can for supporting the channel.